Episode 371. Under this relentless assault, the Christmas thieves began to fall one after another. Glittering golden gift boxes scattered across the ground. The players in the team watched from the sidelines, practically drooling, but for the moment, none dared to step forward and pick them up. Most of the damage being dealt to the Christmas thieves came from classes like Elementalists and Spellblades. The entire area around the central tower was their kill zone, and all the stolen gifts had fallen within it. Charging in now would just get you killed, same as the Christmas thieves. For now, they could only wait impatiently, counting down the seconds until the attack stopped, then rush in to madly snatch the stolen gifts. Under such a relentless assault, the efficiency was naturally high. In the end, only a sparse few managed to breach the fire line. Those who made it to the top of the tower were mercilessly knocked off by Yaexu, ultimately becoming just another corpse. This time, the pile of corpses was growing at a rate that made Yaexu and Su Mucheng's efforts look utterly insignificant. In mere moments, the tower's base was completely submerged beneath the corpses. Blue River was stunned by the sheer scale of the spectacle. Suddenly, the scene from the first time I ran a dungeon with Lord Grimm flashed through my mind.
Muttering wave push, it's another one wave push.
Muttering, just like the one-pull strategy they used back then to clear Frost Forest. The key to this strategy, once again, was undoubtedly the super powerful MVP, Lord Grimm. Whether he used wall hopping or tower jumping, pulling the aggro of 415 mobs is simply impossible for the average player. But this time the spectacle was even more magnificent. Yet Blue River's astonishment paled in comparison to his first run through Frost Forest. After all, he now knew who Lord Grimm was. EQ, a god-tier player operating on a level they couldn't even fathom. Of course his actions would be beyond their imagination. Within minutes, only a handful of Christmas thieves remained alive at the tower's base. The players from the various teams could hold back no longer and swarmed in. The guild leaders' DPS teams also stopped their attacks to avoid friendly fire, leaving this last bit of cleanup to the players themselves. Lord Grimm descended from the tower's peak, firing his guns as he drifted down. The players instinctively parted, clearing a path for the great god to land. The 12 guilds were left to scramble for the gifts on their own. But Yishu and his 2 companions had a prior agreement, guaranteeing them a stable share of the spoils. After all, a free-for-all would be inherently unfair to a team of just 3. And since this strategy wouldn't work without Yaexu, he was absolutely entitled to special treatment. None of the guilds had any complaints. They all went along with it. 415 Christmas thieves meant 415 stolen gifts. According to the prearranged split into 13 equal shares, Yaexu and his 2 companions took 1 share. For this wave, that came to roughly 31 or 32 items, divided among the 3 of them. The remaining loot was a free-for-all scramble for the 96 guild players. On average, that meant each person could snag 3 or 4 items. Once this wave ended, the Christmas thieves naturally respawned. The 99-player team immediately sprang back into action, while the DPS players simply hunkered down by the central tower and refused to leave. Amused, some players even had a wild idea. They suggested Lord Grimm should just stay put at the central tower, wait for them to lure the monsters back, and then wipe them all out in one go. Yaexu shook his head when he heard this. He wasn't some god. To hold the aggro of that many monsters, he'd definitely need to use the terrain and keep moving. Trying to control hundreds of them while staying in one spot? That was a bit too fantastical. This second wave was definitely more efficient than the last. Players coming back this time were generally bringing back 2 or 3 Christmas thieves each. Fighting 2 or 3 at once would be a bit of a challenge even for these experts, but just leading them around, 2 or 3 was no problem. And even 4 or 5 was perfectly manageable. So this time, gathering over 400 Christmas thieves, then killing them all and collecting the gifts, the whole process took less than half an hour. The players checked the time, absolutely thrilled. This was the easiest points and rewards they'd ever gotten. Even better, the members of these 12 guilds were also making smooth progress up the Christmas Hunter leaderboard, steadily advancing toward the name of Excellent Dynasty. This, of course, was a cause for celebration for all the guilds. They'd thought they had no chance of competing with Excellent Dynasty in this event. But thanks to Lord Grimm, everything had changed. It wasn't just the level 31-35 leaderboard. On the guild-based ranking list, the scores of the 12 major guilds were also clearly closing in on the top-ranked Excellent Dynasty. Meanwhile, for Excellent Dynasty and Samsara Guild, the situation was utterly miserable. They were like beggars squatting on the ground, waiting for Lord Grim and the other guilds to finish their feast. Only when a few crumbs of bread accidentally fell from their tables would they get a chance to snatch a bite. And even these crumbs had to be fought over viciously. Those 12 guilds each sent 8 groups to form a team, assigned some for DPS, and still had some idle hands left over. These freeloaders were just hanging around Sin City, snatching up the crumbs. This drove the Dynasty and Samsara guilds absolutely mad. Frustrated, not even leaving the crumbs alone. Is there no justice in this world? While Chen Yehui and the others were still fuming over having to fight for mere crumbs, Yeshu's team was honing their craft to perfection. Finding the Christmas thieves, however, was still largely a matter of luck. In one incredible stroke of luck, they gathered and eliminated over 400 Christmas thieves in just 20 minutes. With his wealth of experience in snatching crumbs, Chen Yehui could even gauge Yekyu's team's progress from the amount of crumbs left behind. Life was tough, subsisting on breadcrumbs, but Chen Yehui gritted his teeth and kept going. Even the crumbs in Sin City were far larger than those in any other leveling zone. The new server had more players than the old ones, but they were all crammed into just a handful of leveling zones. You can imagine how dense the population was. If you were to toss them into places like the Glazed Lands or the One-Line Gorge, plenty of folks would go hours without seeing a single soul. In the new server's world chat, the day's event had left countless players weeping and wailing. Watching his name on the leaderboard fall further from the top 3 and creep closer to the many names below, Chen Yehui was filled with anxious frustration, yet utterly powerless to change it. He knew UQ was at the internet cafe just across from the club. He could just run over and cut the power line, and that would be that. But in the end, he wasn't quite that shameless. Chen Yehui had one hope left. This event lasted a full 36 hours. Unlike their guild characters, who could take shifts in groups of 2 or 3, Lord Grim could only be played by Yeokyu himself. Anyone else trying to pilot that character could never achieve what Yeokyu could. Chen Yehui was already making plans in his head. He intended to use Yeokyu's rest period to aggressively widen their lead, making it impossible for Yeokyu to turn things around when he logged back in. But seeing how fast his opponent was progressing now, Chen Yehui suspected that by the time Yeokyu went to rest, he'd be the one trying to catch up. But no matter what, at least there's still a glimmer of hope.
Go get some rest.
Chen Yehui prayed fervently.